Okay. Um, Welcome. Thanks for joining me for Q&A. I'm recording now. We've been chatting for a few minutes, just a few of us here today. And I've just chatted with Meredith and Anne Marie about recording this because I know that there will be a couple of people that just want to watch a replay later on. We may not stay here for long. We might just chat for a few minutes and then move on. But I'm going to cover a couple of questions that we've just sort of dove into. And then a couple of overview things with Builder Club, and a question that I was given yesterday that it kind of went to my heart, and I want to address that because I know that a couple people are going to watch this later and want to jump on that or to sort of digest that because it's a common question that we need to address. So right now, just to reiterate, Meredith and I were chatting about, I guess, is this the right summary? How do we take a rich literary education like a Charlotte Mason style education and describe that in the high school years for next educators? Is that an appropriate summary?
Yeah. Along the lines of, record keeping and showing credits and what's being done for a credit when a subject is stretched across a number of years.
Yeah.
How do you show that in a way
Yeah.
that a university admissions or high school, if we decided to do, grade 12 in a brick and mortar school, how would they interpret that?
Yeah. Yeah. The really short answer is that we want to always be able to describe to people what we've learned in the language that they're used to using. And so for educators in Canada, they talk about courses, marks, content, time spent. So a course generally, and here in Ontario, one course is 1 credit, but across Canada, sometimes one course is worth 3 credits and so on. So I'm going to talk about them a little bit interchangeably, but essentially a course is evaluated by looking at what did we cover, how much time did we spend, and what mark did we get. I really appreciate this question, and it's something that I talk about often and talked about with 2 people yesterday. So I got on the phone, did a consultation with a mom who was asking very much the same thing. We've had a Charlotte Mason education with very rich literary education, but not a lot of courses that we've done. We've read lots of things, but nothing not nothing, but few things that we could sort of package up and say this was history or this was science or this was geography. Though we've covered many things that would be covered in that course. Then I hung up from talking to that mom and I got on the phone with a private school administrator, a principal at an online Christian school. And we talked about this, among other things. And she was just affirming this same thing that we had talked about. That is, she often has moms and dads come to her and say, here's my homeschooled kid. They read all this stuff, give them some credits. And she's like, I really can't do anything with it. So we talked about how if we can package that up into here's a list of 25 books that this child has read, and taking from that this book, and this book, combined with experiences that we've had, essays that we've written, or narrations that we've written from a Charlotte Mason perspective, field trips, experiences, mentors, projects, and so on. That sum total of content paired with time spent and a grade given is an appropriate way to present this as courses. So from a Charlotte Mason perspective, keep that list, and that list becomes your an anchor for your portfolio. It becomes part of what you draw from to create that transcript to say, and just like we would take from a portfolio to make a transcript, the way that you would to apply for a job, if you were, say, a student who was applying to work in food service, you're going to tailor your resume differently if you decide to apply at a senior's home as opposed to the keg. We're going to put different things on that, or we're going to write it up in a different way, or maybe format it in a different way. We're not lying or making things up, but we are putting different information on it. And so taking from that portfolio, we could say this and this and this book paired with these, discussion-based learning essays or whatever it is that we've done is my economics course. Or instead of book A, B, and C being economics, B, C, and D are that history course, which includes your architecture or whatever it is. So those kinds of things, keeping track of what we've done and then looking at course descriptions and course syllabuses helps us to sort of say, this is what they're looking for. And I can see I've done this and this and this. I did that with one of my daughters with a geography course. We kind of just almost like forgot to do. I didn't do a formal geography with her at the high school level and didn't have any intention of gaining equivalency for her. And we found ourselves in a position where she was doing some online courses and they said part of what we'll do is review past learning for equivalency. So they looked over stuff and they're like, wow, she's done all of these great things, but she didn't do geography. And I was like, ooh, okay, let's pull this together. And so I looked over what she would have been required to do for geography. And we honestly could say, well, she read this and this, but she also drove across Canada with her dad. She worked in in a camp in northern Saskatchewan where she was working intensely with Indigenous students. So like she had more ability to speak to having done Indigenous studies than if I'd sat her down with a workbook. And so we listed all of those things and they granted her that equivalency. So it was an unintentional covering of that. Like I didn't do it intentionally, but we were able to do that. So keeping your eye on sort of where we're going to helps to, say, like we've done these books about architecture and world history and stuff. Maybe we should bump up some of what we're doing with Canadian history or whatever. And if it's spread over 4 years, it really is fine. If you're trying to get into grade 12, then spread it over 3 years. That's fine. They're not really going to care so much how long it took to do that course as that we've covered an appropriate content over an appropriate amount of time. Like you didn't cover all this in like on Saturday mornings for 4 weeks of the month, right? In a month. So you have put an amount of time into that. So there's depth and there's breadth to it. And then you can give marks to it. And from a Charlotte Mason perspective, our marks tend to be rather anecdotal. I can see that this went well and we could have learned more in this. And for that reason, I give this grade. The more simple we keep it, the better. But it's rather anecdotal and not necessarily like scientific in the way that we would approach it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, if they're students doing, work over grade 9 and grade 10, and they have more credits that are sort of finishing in the grade 10 year, like, do you need to have the same number of credits each year on your transcript, or could you just say you have more? Okay.
No, I've tailored transcripts to like it's like a resume. I've tailored it to look the way I want it to. So with my first daughter, she's just very type A like her mom. Like I got to check off 8 credits each year. My second daughter was like, well, whatever, I'm gonna do what I do. And there was no way I could package up that she'd done 8 credits each year. It just did not look good. It would have been fabricated. So instead of doing like, this is grade 9, that's grade 10, this is 11, and this is 12, I just made a list. And I didn't indicate which year she had done them. Okay. Or maybe I might have indicated which year she completed them.
Yeah. Okay.
Because with her, I like the first year, I think, you've finished 4 or 5 things, but you started 10 or 12. And by the second year, you finished 15 or 16, maybe. Like it was too, and then the COVID years got in there too. And finishing high school was messy. Yeah. Just because of those things. So we wrote up a really great looking transcript that reflected what she knew, but didn't reflect that she did it in a rather more scattered manner than her sister. Yeah. And they both graduated from university now. So like both of them had, we were able to solidly communicate what they had done in different ways because they're very different girls. And
Yeah.
that was speaking to universities. We use them some for high school courses. And then, like I said, I talked to this high school administrator who, like, you've just got to communicate what we know.
Right.
With those three main metrics: content, depth, a mark. So content and time and a mark. And that will help too. Okay. And one of the things that I've heard from multiple administrators, like, private schools are audited. And I've heard about this audit process. It's a very intimidating process for a private school. And if that doesn't go well, the Ministry of Education can pull their accreditation and pull their ministry approval. So now you are operating as a school that can't give out credits, and parents are not able to achieve the ends that they joined that school for. So it's very intimidating for them as private schools. On the other hand, public schools, whatever goes, goes. Because if you get a slap on the wrist, you're still a public school in the end. And I've seen both. I've seen private schools that are very, very diligent about ensuring appropriate accreditations, and some that are more relaxed. And I've seen public schools that will look into it, and others that don't care at all. They just check off a box. So, like, how much we're asked to provide is going to vary, but what the Education Act, or I'm not sure it's the Education Act, but the Ministry of Education would require that students cover at least 75%. 75 to 80% of what is in a course must be covered in order to gain equivalency.
Okay.
So that helps to, if you're checking off boxes and looking at what's required, then, we've done Canadian history a little bit every year, but did we do, 8 out of 10 of the topics? We did 6 out of 10. Let's add in a couple of things, or look at those things we've done experientially with a mentor, etc., that we could count as that.
And for high school classes, then where's the best place that you find where it actually says what they're doing in a given, like for grade 9 geography, for example? Is that all on the Ontario Ministry of Education?
Yeah, you can download the curriculum documents from the Ministry of Education. My hack that I will usually do is you'll usually find a more user-friendly version at local school boards. So I will find the course code. So I'm going to type in Ontario grade 9 geography course. I always mix up which one's 9 and 10. I think geography's 9 and history's 10. So Ontario grade 9 geography course. And then if I do that in Google, it'll come up with 10 school boards that say, I'm making up the code, GRE 10 or whatever. And then then I take that course code and I put it back into Google. And I look through and I find course descriptions that way. And you'll find it on the Ministry of Education website, but you'll also find it on local high school websites. And if you're looking at a ministry accredited school, then they will list it with that course code, and their description will be matched up with something that is ministry approved.
Okay.
So
that's helpful.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation this year where our co-op offered dissection for high school kids, but my son isn't actually doing biology till probably a future year. So he's doing the dissection now, and then we'll apply it to when he's doing the actual biology, because we're doing a different science. This kind of just came up as an opportunity that we jumped on. So it's kind of taking something from grade 9, but then probably not using it to grade 10. And is it okay? Those sorts of things.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And because those biology dissections are listed as a grade 11 course in Ontario, save it up, write it down. We did it. We've often done that. Like, we've always done our high school experiments with friends. And so they don't necessarily line up with the courses that we've done, or the courses that we've done haven't lined up with what grade would be equivalent in Ontario. So that's fine.
Right. Okay. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions that we should go over of a more general nature, or anything we're going over with you, Anne-Marie?
Actually, that was very helpful for me as well, because I'm in a similar how to put it all together apart all
Yeah.
the things that we've done and where to look for the for course descriptions where we can repurpose and translate what we've done in the language that the that post-secondary and so on speaks, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that they want to hear because they're not going to understand. I have this fantastic reading list that my student has done. Or like, I mean, Anne-Marie and your family, you guys are doing many things, like you're involved with stuff and very hands-on with education. So that counts for something, but we need to be able to show it to the next educator. So yeah. Very good. If you guys want to percolate, if you have other questions, we can chat about them, but I'm going to just review a couple things. And that is Anne-Marie and I had worked on communicating to everybody, and I don't have it fully in front of me, so I'm going to shoot from the hip. And that is just that it's been a slow start to the Builders Club in terms of us putting out content and doing these Q&As. Everybody seems to have been, like we've had a lot of one-on-ones with families just doing like initial consultations or asking questions and stuff. And now got a couple of those seminars out. So we've got a regular schedule starting in January. And I've been chatting with some really cool guest speakers, but I haven't put them down date by date yet, just because I want to make sure that we have the recordings in hand before I publish those. But some really, really resourceful people and valuable talks that we're having there. And we just recently put out and said, one of the things we're going to do is just extend this first year to a second year for all of you who have jumped on and trusted us to bring in on the construction phase. And we're having a tremendous amount of learning going with setting up our learning platform, right? So that has been a learning experience, and we're repurposing some pages from our previous learning platform to make sure that you can access those videos without having to be on Facebook or whatever. But otherwise, we'll keep on putting content there, emailing out stuff, putting stuff on the Facebook group if that's for those who are there. Not everybody is in that group. And just trying to be a resource. One of the really big things that we want to do is to be responsive to what everyone needs. So like if Meredith, if these chats about high school are what predominantly our builders want, then we're going to do more stuff about high school right now. If we are finding that I'm like, chatting too much about phonics and early reading, and that's not what we need, or it is what we need, then I just want to be resourceful to that. So to that end, are there specific topics that you would like to take up? Are there specific speakers you'd like to hear from? Are there specific subjects that we should talk through? I know like one of the things that we're going to be hitting on in the next few months is quiet times for moms, because I know that in my years with the little ones that it was just so hard to get those quiet times in and to build those rhythms and healthy routines and healthy spiritual routines for myself. So that's one of the things we want to jump on. But are there other topics? Do you have ideas that you want to jump on, or do you want to percolate on that and send those to me? And anybody who's watching the recording should definitely percolate on those things and send those to us, because otherwise we've got lots of great ideas and all kinds of things lined up, but I can move those around for what's important.
Well, one thing I'm trying to work on this year and do better at is like record keeping and like regularly reviewing. That's like making sure I've got time that I'm sort of not leaving it too long before looking at work that's been done, or kind of trying to, on the weekends review what's been done the previous week and set stuff up for the next weekend, just because I know record keeping at this stage for my kids is important. So that's something that I always feel like I could learn more about how to do and how to schedule and how to be, how to make it a habit and be regular with it. That's one thing. Yeah. Finding time for quiet time and other things is a really helpful one too. Sometimes I feel like getting through the day is but all you can do, but actually being intentional about your time is really helpful.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm going to note that and we'll keep on planning towards those things. But if more comes to mind, and if you are like in the midst of a moment and you're like, this would really help us out right now, if we had somebody who could speak into this topic. I know specifically, I actually talked to Patty Marler from HSLDA yesterday as well. And she's going to help with some of the record keeping teaching in the next Help for Homeschooling High School course,
Oh,
which that's really up her alley. And she's so good at that and has graduated all of her students from homeschool and really can speak well to that. So she's going to be helping with that at the next Help for Homeschooling High School. And she is doing a talk on planning for success in homeschool for the Builders Club. So those are two things that I'm really looking forward to with her and with others. So that's kind of one of those things. So the suggestions are most welcome. Another thing that I would welcome is, does this timing work? I've always aimed at about 2 p.m. for Q&As because we're talking to people through 6 time zones. But days and times are totally flexible. Well, not totally. They are somewhat flexible and we can change those. I have planned ahead and made dates for the next number of months for our Q&As. That were there dates on those, Anne Marie? Did we
emailed out, and after
Okay.
this, I'm going to post it on the Facebook group. I didn't want to overshadow
Okay.
the Q&A.
Okay.
And I think it's okay also if the time doesn't always work, that people can email or post their questions.
Yeah.
It will still
Yeah,
be
totally.
answered in the Q&A.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's true too. We always take questions ahead of time, whether it goes to info@learninghouse.ca or builders@learninghouse.ca. Those are ways that we've always received questions for Q&As ahead of time. So the idea with a Builders Club Q&A though is that we're going to have a more, a smaller, more intimate group so we can get through some nuts and bolts and get deeper into some things like these kinds of questions. And be more strategic and planned and go over any of the content that we talked about in the previous month or months. So there are some of our guest speakers who will show up for our Q&As. Some of them are not able to, but that's something too where you can sort of meet one-on-one with some of them. Anything else that we needed to make sure that people knew going forward? We have seminars coming up, a bunch of them in the works and being recorded or coming up soon, and speakers that were coming up soon. The coupon codes that you have, make sure that you still have them available. If you can't find them, then message us. I wonder if maybe we should just send those out again, Anne Marie.
Sure. Yeah. I think I have to double check if it's just the expiry or the code. I did pin some in the Facebook group, but I know not everybody's on there as well. So
yeah, it could go out by email. I'm shooting from the hip, so I don't remember, and I'm gonna hang up from here and think, oh, I should have said. That's okay. But we don't want to take it too long. There is a question that, unless you guys have something else you want to specifically talk about, I want to answer a question that I got by email yesterday. This is a mom that I know and that I've heard from, and I just love her. She's just so wonderful. And she wrote to me, and I have truncated stuff and taken stuff out that's personal in this. But she's just said, I wonder if you have any advice for me. I'm really struggling with consistency in our homeschool. Some of these reasons, I'm reading a little bit here, and again, I've paraphrased some of the stuff that she's given me. Some of the reasons are unavoidable appointments and things that take us away from home and interrupt our school days, things that can't be moved to the evenings or Saturdays when I work. We try homeschooling in the car, but it's not nearly as effective as at home. And there are things that interrupt our routines that are my problem to fix. Things like I sleep in, so we start late, or I'm too tired to make it through the end of the day, or the kids are bickering and I'm fed up. then I'm just done with the pushback and I just need time to myself. And then there's days when, as a mom, my hormones are not going to align with teaching these kids well. So I this is about struggling through both uncontrollable and controllable issues. So the question is, when there are really good school days, when we're fully engaged, as a mom, I feel like I'm doing my best throughout the day, but I'm inconsistent and my kids are not getting the best of me. It's just not what we want. It's not what I want for school, for our routines, and not just for school, but for routines like bedtime and mealtime. So I know it's not good for us. And I know that it's December and things are dark and days are short and we can't get out as easily, but this is an ongoing problem. So how do I manage? How do I show up and be prepared and make sure that my kids get the best and not the leftovers after I've done my work and all of the other things that have to be done? And then she writes, sometimes I wonder if I should just give up on homeschooling altogether, if the kids would be better off in public school where at least the teachers show up every day. What suggestions do you have? And I needed to speak to this. She's not in the Builders Club and I would love for her to be. But and we're gonna have a chat. But this is something that I hear so often and I've lived out too. Like I know I talk to moms and dads that are going through this, and I have been through this. We've been through times with extreme health needs. I can remember a season when my husband spent about 6 months in and out of a hospital with some really significant health challenges that like made us think about the future. You know, we were wondering what how we could survive today, tomorrow, and potentially going forward. COVID was a huge thing for so many people in so many ways. Like for us, that was moms working full time now outside of the house for the first time ever. So it really stretched us. So these stretching times are we've had financially stretching times, and I talk to moms who are like under terrible financial strain, moms who are single parenting, and so many more moms that I talk to who are single parenting and are just doing heroic things for their kids to care for them and be there for them, and are carrying all kinds of extra jobs that everybody doesn't have, that you know the general homeschool population doesn't have. Moms that are dealing with students who have extreme health and learning needs that have kept them out of school. They're not homeschooling on purpose. They're homeschooling because this is the only way to keep this kid safe and sound. So we all have seasons of highs and lows, and we all have challenges, and some of us can like ride through some really extreme things and make it look really smooth, and others it is totally reasonable to say like my hormones are out of whack and I can't manage well right now, and there's no emergencies or terrible things happening, but this is a season where we're not managing well. And I don't know that I've talked to enough moms to ask this, but I think we all go through seasons of burnout where we've been doing this for a long time. And I can remember a particular year when I was just like, I do not want to show up any day of the week, but I have to. And these kids need me. I'm done. I don't want the curriculum. I don't want the bickering. I don't want the routines. I don't want all of this stuff. And I've been done. And so we get to those seasons of burnout. And we also have, some of us have ongoing things that are just going to continue to be an extreme trial that we can't change. So how do you walk through that? First of all, know that there's others going through this. Secondly, choose to prioritize the most important things. If I had to choose the most important things to get through, and in those seasons when we have been burned out or when we've had extreme needs or emergencies or crises, the most important thing is relationship and just the basics. So let your kids know that you love them, that you're on their side, that the priority is their relationship with their God and with their people, whether that is like you as the primary caregiver, those key people that they need for stability in their life. Is it mom and dad? Is it mom and grandparents? Is it siblings? Like, prioritize those relationships. And I always tease that we used to brainwash our kids when they were little. Your best friend, stop fighting. But we did that intentionally, and actually, thankfully, it's paid off. Thank you, Lord. But relationships are so important. And now my kids, being 16 to 26, their most key relationships are with their siblings. Like, they really love their siblings. And so make sure that that's a priority, because we can catch up on math, but it's so hard with damaged relationships to build those things again. And then the second piece is just the bare minimums. Like, math and language arts are the pieces we're constantly building skill upon skill, and you can't skip grade 3 math and just go to grade 4. You have to learn to add before you can multiply, and you got to learn to multiply before you can do long division, and you got to learn long division before you can do so on. So those are the things where we have to build skill upon skill and continue on. History can be set aside for a season, or geography can be set aside, or art can be set aside for a season, and we can make it through it. But deficits in language and math continue to need us to address them and move forward with those. So on those worst days, read your Bible, hug your kids, read a good book together, do the minimum of math, and get through those things, and decide that that's a season that you're in, and that's okay. And teach your kids to fail forward. Like, we have to show our kids what it looks like to fail, or else they're not going to know how to do that. So I've done that really well. Like, we can lose our cool and then say sorry. And we can, I mean, I actually had this conversation with one of my daughters last night. I'm like, those last few years of your high school, they sucked. That was not the way I wanted homeschool to be. We were isolated. Mom was working full time. We weren't around our friends. You didn't get the help you needed with algebra. That sucked. And I own that, because I made a priority of working when school should have been, and my relationship with my children should have been my priority. And she's like, I understand, Mom. Like, that was a season. People were doing that. That was COVID. So she was very understanding, but we have to be able to fail and walk through what that looks like with our kids. So you kids, they have to see those seasons when we struggle, and to see how we deal with it, and to walk through it, and to hear us apologize, and to just keep on stepping forward, like take the next step, whether we have the full course plotted out, and be patient, because it might be a month, and it might be a year, and it might be several years. But also recognize that, yeah, it's okay if you decide that this is the season that those kids go to school. So, like, being in the Builders Club, being a homeschooler, like running a homeschool bookstore, these are, most of the times I feel like I shouldn't say this, but there really is a season for us not to homeschool. There's space for us to send our kids to school and to be a good mom. We don't judge our friends who are sending their kids to school and go, oh man, like, you really failed as a parent. So why do we do that to ourselves? If there is a season or an end of our homeschooling season, or if there's a season where our kids need to go to school, yes, they should. We were foster parents for a lot of years, and I met lots of people who their children were much more safe and healthy by going to school, because they just didn't have the resources they needed to parent well while just being there full time for their kids. So we should send them when there's health and safety issues. And that doesn't mean like evil and destruction and gore, but that it might be a season where we need to gain better health, or we need for our students to be more safe. Seasons of change and recovery, seasons when we just need to, we see that's a place where we can each gain maybe better relationships. And I know that that's a lot of it in the high school years, that moms and dads will sometimes say, I need this child to go to school because we'll have a better relationship then. And if that gives you a better relationship, then do it. Times when school resources exceed what we have. If there's some stuff that is really important to your student, that it is available at the local school and you can continue on with the things you think are most important, like relationships with your child and their relationship with the Lord, then do it. And ultimately, that should be done when the Lord has given us the peace to do so. So pray about it and set your heart, open, be open-handed with these things. So I wouldn't normally encourage people to just, stop homeschooling. I always encourage people to homeschool through high school because I think it's fantastic. And I've had the most wonderful time with my children doing this. But that doesn't, it can't be our idol. Homeschooling can't be our idol. So there are some guarantees in life, and that's that we won't get it all done, that we'll mess up, we'll have to apologize, and that it's going to be messy, and that there's going to be gaps, and that there's going to be flaws, and that we could have done it better, for sure. So I don't know whether that will, these are just some ideas that flew from kind of from the cuff, but I've had this talk so many times and I've really felt it deep down inside myself. And just hearing from my mom friend the other day, my heart feels for her, and as much to let her know that there's a lot of us going through that.
Can I just also add a little segue in case it encourages somebody to keep homeschooling when it's encouraging? Is that sometimes we make school the idol in terms of saying, like, they're doing better than we are. And sometimes the teachers don't finish the courses or all the material, or they don't get to the second level of the math book, or they don't. So I think it's a nice balance to also say that it's not necessarily perfect over there either, and they get derailed from drama in the classroom, and they get derailed by different things that are happening there as well. Just as a sort of, hey, it's not always greener on that side either in terms of what's happening. So at one season, I needed to understand that, to know that I was doing okay, because that's not better there. But there are other times, as you're saying, that it might be the right option to end and continue in school.
Yeah. Ultimately, we have stewardship of a very valuable job here, that we're working with these kids, and so it's not about us. So it's not about looking like a good mom or checking off boxes or even comparing ourselves to the school system. But at the same time, there's so many families that I hear from that say, I found out what wasn't happening at school and I knew I could do better. So there's a lot of room for us to fail and still do well by our children. I remember a season when one of my kids, like, this wasn't our burnout season or our extreme health season or anything like that, but I remember a season when one of my kids was like, I just want to go to school. All my friends go to school. It's more fun at school. I can do different things at school. I don't want to be here anymore. I've done this homeschool thing for a long time. It's kind of getting boring. And I remember just saying to her, I appreciate that. I will consider that. I don't feel it in my heart and I don't want to, but I'll consider it. But what we both need to do is to pray about this. I want to pray that we will be in agreement. And so we did that, and eventually that became something that we agreed on, but she had to submit to my authority. And then she came back later and said, yeah, I'm really glad that we continued on this course of homeschooling. And even it's nice when your kids have graduated and you can come back afterwards and they can say, this is how I feel about it. And each of my kids who has graduated has come back later and said, I'm really glad that you homeschooled us. So, and through those high school years as well. So anyways, some things to think on. Anything else that we want to chat about before I let y'all go? I appreciate spending the time. It's been really nice chatting with you guys.
Thank you, you too.
This has been great. Nothing's coming to mind.
Well, I feel like it's a little bit one-sided because I chatter a lot, but thanks for listening. Thanks for showing up. And I look forward to more of these chats going forward. This is, I hope that we can build this into a form where we can really just build one another up. All right. I'm gonna figure out how to stop recording, and then I'm gonna let y'all go about your very busy days. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks.